Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first Small Business Support Series webinar. And it'll be a busy week of these type of webinars, so I encourage you to look on our website to see if there are other things that may interest you during this week. First of all, thank you all for joining us, and thank you to the Department of Labor and Advanced Education for supporting this full week of informative sessions. My name is Kent Roberts. I'm the Vice President of Policy here at the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. Traditionally, when we think of post-secondary, it was kind of graduate high school, go to university and get a degree. But as everyone's probably aware, there are many other great options for youth to get out, out there, and one of them is certainly apprenticeship. Apprenticeship leads to certification and a career in the skilled trades. Based on a combination of on-the-job training and periods of technical training, apprenticeship offers businesses in the construction, motive power, industrial manufacturing, and service sectors the opportunity to build a skilled and inclusive workforce, grow productivity, and plan for succession. We'll hear from our speakers shortly on how apprenticeship works, available supports and incentives, the growing diversity and inclusion in the skilled trade workforce. Please feel free to type any questions you have in the chat, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speakers. First up is Marjorie Davison, CEO of Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency. Marjorie is committed to enabling women and diverse groups to share in the economic prosperity that careers in the skilled trades have to offer. Next is Donna Karsten, Director of Standards and Examinations at the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency. Donna has over 20 years in leadership in educational curriculum development and implementation. And last but not least is Kim Kennedy, Chief Operating Officer of the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency. Kim and her team are responsible for supporting clients in the apprenticeship system and the delivery of technical training associated with the apprenticeship program. So please welcome Marjorie, Donna, and Kim, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Kent, and thanks to the Chamber for arranging this webinar today. I am honored to be joined by two of our senior leaders at the agency as introduced. And it's really a pleasure for us, given the proximity of Small Business Week, which was the week before last, to be able to think about apprenticeship and how the system can support small business. I would invite those who are listening to drop your name in the chat or the name of your company and let us know what you are hoping to get out of the presentation. We do have a presentation plan, but we certainly want to be sure we provide the information that you're looking for. So Donna is going to manage our slides today. So I asked Donna to go to the first slide. And as Kent in the introduction, as you said, apprenticeship is a post-secondary system, like college or university, and it leads to a recognized credential. And it's also at the same time a labor market response to the needs of the sectors that you named in your introduction, primarily the construction, the motive power, the industrial manufacturing, the service sectors within skilled trades occupations. And the agency is a special operating entity of government, and we are the training and certification and regulatory body for the skilled trades occupations in Nova Scotia. And we work with industry sectors and trades professionals at the provincial, the Atlantic, and national levels to facilitate the development and continued relevance of trades programs. And the role of the agency is to promote the apprenticeship pathway to youth and to equity groups and provide navigational supports to apprentices, to employers, to trades practitioners. We're there to support quality training, to invigilate level and certification exams, and to ensure compliance with the Apprenticeship and the Trades Qualifications Act. We are a post-secondary option for youth and mature adults who are moving forward in their careers and becoming certified tradespersons. And the system combines real-world experience with classroom learning provided in person or during COVID-19 more remotely. So that's really on the job and technical training, where the employer is the primary trainer. And the apprentices, our students, we call apprentices, work under skilled trades professionals, which the terminology we use is certified journey persons, and they pass on their knowledge and their skills. So apprenticeship opens the door to a rewarding, well-paying career for our youth, for new entrants into the trades, and it is an investment in your workforce, and it will yield positive returns. We have a brief, this is our ad that from our marketing campaign, Apprenticeship Ready When You Are. It's only 30 seconds, but it gives you a feel for what apprenticeship is like. So I'll ask Donna to run that now.
Here's the thing about life. There are no shortcuts. The future comes to those who put in the time. If you want to own your skill and earn your future, this is the way. So the question is, are you ready?
And on the next slide, we share with you some ways in which apprenticeship can be that return on investment. First of all, apprenticeship enables you as a small business owner or operator to train to your needs and to grow a culture of training in your workplace. Employers want highly skilled workers who are committed to the company's success. So who better than a journey person who's trained right in the company? In fact, employers cite a better fit with the organization as the most significant benefit of employing a journey person that they trained from the beginning as an apprentice. Secondly, apprenticeship enhances productivity, as really all training can do. As apprentices progress in their programs, they make an increasing contribution to their workplaces, with the benefits outpacing investment in most trades by the end of the second year. Most apprenticeships are 1 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years is what I meant to say. And a majority of employers consider what we could call a homegrown journey person up to 1/3 more productive than an external hire. Technology sharing is an important secondary benefit that also enhances productivity, because many apprentices, they're younger, they're familiar with technology, they've grown up with it, and they come into the business with this experience and knowing what's most up to date. And this leads to generational learning between the apprentices and journey persons. And we've heard this particularly from employers in the motive power sector. And thirdly, apprenticeship provides an avenue to attract new business opportunities, because increasingly governments, whether it's provincial or federal or municipal or First Nations, they're requiring involvement in apprenticeship training from their contractors. So in much the same way as an apprenticeship program can enhance your reputation in the community, it may attract additional business or offer new opportunities to your company. And apprenticeship can help you to build a diverse workforce. We hear a lot today about how important it is to have a diverse and inclusive workforce. And employers with diversified workforces cite increased productivity and creativity, customer service. If you think about diversity and diverse perspectives, coming together to lead to more creative problem solving and increasing safety for all workforce members, including women and diverse groups. We're launching a new self-guided online orientation modules for apprentices and employers that contain detailed information that's essential for navigating our apprenticeship system in Nova Scotia. And we've included in this program a module on diversity and inclusion with the goal of raising the bar and how we treat one another and provide safe and affirming work environments in which to carry out our trades work. And finally, financial benefits. Employers who hire apprentices report financial gains. For every dollar invested, employers receive an average return of $1.47 within the scope of the apprenticeship. And the net benefit can range depending on the trade, from around $40,000 for cooks up to over $240,000 for heavy duty equipment mechanics. So talk a little bit more about why apprenticeship, and more direct from an industry perspective. Apprenticeship, as I mentioned, it's a labor market program as much as it is a post-secondary system, and it's set up to be industry-led and meet labor market demand. Whether you're a homeowner who needs repairs and renovations, or a small to medium-sized operator, say in the forestry sector, that need mechanized machine operators, or to large business like Irving Shipbuilding, who need welders and metal fabricators to build ships for Canada. And these are needs that can be met directly. Apprenticeship can take those right out of high school. You know, if an employer is willing to make that investment to grow their talent, then you can have almost an immediate need in your labor market met. So industry is involved in setting the standards. We as the agency, we facilitate opportunities with our trades sectors, our trades, our industries, using them to help us define what are the skills that are important. You know, what's that curricula? What does it need to look like today? What does it need to look like a couple of years from now? And how do we measure that fairly to ensure that we are helping our apprentices develop at a quality that's needed by the workforce? And secondly, training. I mentioned this earlier, but training to your own needs. I just wanted to share a little bit more about this. You know, journey persons, which again, that's the person we call the completed apprentice. When they're trained in-house, they are shown to be, through the research, a third more productive than external hires. And as I mentioned, these direct entry apprentices can come from high school. They can also come from a college program, a 1 or 2 certificate program. But there is value in training these apprentices right there in the shop, rather than having to retrain someone who has trained somewhere else. And one of our board members, Heather Cruikshanks, and she and her husband run Ellie Cruikshanks Sheet Metal Limited here in Halifax. And because for so many years there wasn't another option for learning the sheet metal trade other than just coming right out of high school, we're going to talk about some youth programs later on, but she really looks to those young people who have an interest in the trade, and she brings them in for co-ops when they're in high school, and she hires them right after high school and trains them. And thirdly, I just wanted to mention about social procurement. And as you know, we've mentioned that increasingly governments are requiring contractors to be involved in apprenticeship. We have a current policy in place in Nova Scotia for any kind of provincial government construction sites or infrastructure must require active participation in the apprenticeship system. We're currently working in Cape Breton, and as you know, there's been just over $1 billion announced in new infrastructure for Cape Breton, and we anticipate up to $3 billion of investment in mainland Nova Scotia. And so with our other government departments, our colleagues at Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, for example, we're looking at ways to leverage these really huge investments to grow training and to grow that investment in apprenticeship. So if you're in the construction sector, please take a look at this, and we will help you to meet what the new contract provisions are going to be there. And my last slide, I wanted just to give you a sense of what the apprenticeship system looks like, and then we'll go into more in depth about how the system actually works. We are a legislative system, and occupations under apprenticeship or that receive support through the agency have been formally recognized. We call it designated under legislation, and currently there are 71 skilled trade occupations, of which 13 are regulated as compulsory certified. And this means that one must be an apprentice or one must be certified in order to work legally in that occupation. And there are another 8 skilled trades that are regulated by other authorities with the same type of conditions. So you can see that, I'm just going to take a sip here, that the 4 sectors are listed on the slide, and there's some, just to give you an idea of the trades under those sectors, we've listed a few of them. They're very active and alive here in the Halifax area. Our head office is in Halifax, but we have office locations throughout the province. And we have staff called industry training consultants who are there available to meet directly with employers and with apprentices and trades practitioners to help them work to come into the system or to support them in their training, in their journey along the way. And you can see that we have just over 2,200 employers actively in the system with over 7,200 apprentices who are actively training. And the 2 other stats on the slide come from our satisfaction survey. So this is a survey that we do every 2 years with our employers and our apprentices. And as you can see here, we have a huge satisfaction from our employers saying that, you know, apprentices make a positive contribution to their workplace and that they fill important labor market needs. And I think this represents 500 employers out of our systems who participate. And they've been involved with apprenticeship for in many cases, 5 years or longer. So I think that helps to demonstrate what we've said earlier about, you know, why get involved? Because there are many employers out there who are showing that it is making a difference for them every day. So thank you. That's some overview of the apprenticeship system and why apprenticeship. And now Kim's going to talk about the actual, how it works. So I'll hand it over to Kim.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Incredibly happy to be here. So I'm going to start to talk about a little bit about how you can get involved in the apprenticeship system. So there are 3 different ways to get involved. The first is at a strategic level. And as Marjorie had mentioned earlier, we are led by an apprenticeship board, which is made up of industry. So at a strategic level, many industry members are on our apprenticeship board. As a matter of fact, we have some advertisements out right now for the apprenticeship board, so we encourage you to go out and take a look at that. And that would allow you to lead the apprenticeship system. Secondly, we have involvement at a trade level. So the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency Board will appoint trade advisory committees to review policy, regulations, training, examinations, training delivery, very specific to trades or groups of trades. Those positions are also advertised and are sent out to many employers and our partners in the system to ensure that we get the appropriate involvement at a trade level. Lastly, we have employers who are involved in training our apprentices. So we're building our future skilled workforce. And there are 2 ways to get involved in that. One is that you can hire an apprentice who comes in and applies. And that's what we call direct entry apprenticeship. And then we have graduates from our pre-apprenticeship programs that you can hire, and that person gets credit into the apprenticeship system. So very simply, an employer who wants to become involved at a training level has their apprentice complete an apprenticeship agreement online. Very simple. And then one of our industry training consultants will come out and meet with both the apprentice and the employer to discuss their roles and responsibilities in the system. If an employer doesn't have a skilled journey person, as Marjorie had alluded to earlier, there are also ways that you can have some of your skilled workers challenge the Red Seal exam and be available to supervise apprentices. Once the agreement has been signed, depending on the trade, the apprentice will go through levels of training. And what a level of training consists of is you, as the employers and our primary training provider, passing skills on to the apprentice. Secondly, it includes a technical training period, which normally would be in class for most trades, but of course during COVID, we've been delivering remotely. And that ranges from 6 to 8 weeks of training. And then third, the apprentice would complete a level exam. And then once all of those things are met, the apprentice would move on to the next level. In most trades, the levels are 3 to 4, but there are some smaller trades where there are 2 levels. Once the apprentice has completed all of their levels, they challenge the certification exam. And for those trades that are national in scope, that's the Red Seal certification exam, which allows apprentices to move across the country, working in whichever province they are, and that Red Seal certification would be recognized. There are financial supports available to employers who participate in the apprenticeship system. So federally, we have 2 supports. One is the top-up of your apprentice's wages. So that period of technical training that I spoke about, apprentices are eligible to collect employment insurance during that period. Employers are permitted to top up a wage for those apprentices with no impact on EI benefits. Many of you may be doing that already for maternity benefits. The same would apply. There's also the Apprenticeship Job Creation Tax Credit. And the Apprenticeship Job Creation Tax Credit is a non-refundable tax credit available to employers for up to 10% of eligible salaries. So that means that an employer can get a tax credit for $2,000 for each apprentice they may hire. Lastly, the Provincial Apprenticeship Start Program. The Apprenticeship Start Program is designed to encourage employers to hire, train, and complete apprentices through to their journey person status. This incentive is $25,000 for the duration of the apprenticeship. And if the apprentice is a diverse apprentice representing an underrepresented group, that amount would be $30,000. It is open to employers who hire apprentices across the province. As of yesterday, November 1st, 2020, all the Apprenticeship Start Program has been expanded. And this means that all apprentices in urban areas who are hired by their employer are now eligible for the START program. Of course, the diversity bonus still applies. This also means that any employer who's hiring an experienced apprentice or somebody who's been laid off during COVID, for example, is now eligible for the START program as well. Previous to yesterday, those employers in urban areas were not eligible for the START program. So where can I find my future workforce? Many employers today are struggling with finding their future workforce. You could find apprentices via high school or, as I had mentioned earlier, through the pre-employment programming. The agency works in partnership with many youth-serving organizations to promote apprenticeship and careers in the skilled trades. The opportunities promoted through these partnerships include in-class presentations, virtual workshops, experiential learning, employer demonstrations, and these organizations are seeking to grow their connections with employers, so there's opportunities to get involved on the ground. Recently, the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency worked with the African Nova Scotia Affairs Office, BBI, and the Jordantown, Acaciaville, Conway Community Betterment Association, I actually practiced that, to put on an event for Digby High School students. It was a unique hybrid of on-site and virtual activities to enable the event to occur during the pandemic restrictions. BBI and ANSA managed the logistics, and NSAA was on the ground to be the human connection between the audience and the virtual presenters. Our partner, the Nova Scotia Construction Sector Council, brought the mobile construction experience out of storage, drove it to Digby, parked it at a school parking lot the day before, spent the night recharging it so that it could be visited by students and community members the next day. On the screen, you will see a photo of the mobile construction unit, and it is a 53-foot truck, the sides of which open to reveal interactive booths in the construction trades that are operated by skilled trades professionals. Our future workforce. The Department of Education and Early Childhood Development contributes significantly to the promotion of skilled trades. There are a number of programs through the Department of Education that include the O2 program, the skilled trades courses, and skilled trade centers across the province. The O2 program, for example, is available in 70 schools and reached almost 3,000 students last year. Another way that you could encourage youth to get involved in the skilled trades is taking them on during a work term during pre-employment programming. So many of you will know that there are work terms associated with the Nova Scotia Community College Trades programming. We encourage you to take those students on during their work term because those students receive advanced credit into apprenticeship. I'm going to tell you a little story about one of our youth. Rain Prime. At just 17, she was already on the road to success. Rain Prime always liked cars, very similar to me, but she never thought a mere interest could turn into a career that she was looking for. Her interest was piqued during a presentation at her high school through the agency summer youth program in partnership with the Automotive Sector Council. This test drive initiative provides youth an opportunity to work in a variety of trades in the motive power sector and helps them build careers for themselves in Nova Scotia. Rain applied and secured a cooperative education apprenticeship position with Britain's Auto Salvage in Smiths Cove, Digby, where she discovered her love and passion for auto body work. Rain has now applied for the Auto Body and Collision Technician Repair Program at the NSCC, and Britain's Auto Salvage has committed to her that when she finishes her program, she will be hired on as an apprentice auto body collision technician. I'm going to turn over to Donna now. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes about diversity and inclusion and how its importance in the apprenticeship system. In 2016-17, the agency launched its diversity and inclusion framework called Building More Equitable Pathways. It is meant to enable employers to increase participation of underrepresented groups in the apprenticeship system. It was developed through representative groups of equity and community partners, and it consists of 3 pillars: demonstrating a commitment and accountability, reducing barriers to apprenticeship, and partners to drive change. In our commitment to diversity and inclusion, the agency employs a Chief Diversity Officer who assists with the implementation of the framework, as well as educating staff and board members in developing cultural competencies. These efforts have really created some growth in this area. In 2014-15, when we first started the agency, we had about 4.4% of our apprentices that identified as being from diverse groups. And now, by the end of 2019-2020, which would be last March 31st, we have just over 15% of our apprentices that identify as diverse. And for women, we've had a 57% increase since 2017 of women who are registered as apprentices. We've worked really hard to leverage our partners to make this happen. So just for examples, one of the biggest examples we have is our partnership with the federal government, which enables the apprenticeship agency to now have a dedicated women in trades office that supports female apprentices and administers projects designed to increase the number of women in non-traditional trades using tools such as a wage subsidy. A couple other examples that we have are partnerships with the Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia, where a wage subsidy again is used for employers to hire newcomers and give them the opportunity to show their skills in a particular trade. And that program has been very successful in increasing the number of newcomers that have moved into the apprenticeship system. And finally, we also have a direct entry project with the East Preston Empowerment Academy that hopes to place about 20 youth with employers and union organizations. So those are some of the partnerships we are leveraging to move the apprenticeship system forward with diversity and inclusion. We also want to talk to the employers in the room about the Atlantic Trades Business Seal. Now, the Atlantic Trades Business Seal is a program that offers business training to people that have a Journey Person's certification. So you have to have gone through and gotten your certification in a skilled trades, and then you're eligible for this program. It has 5 30-hour modules in operations management, business planning, financial management, human resource management, and marketing and sales. We're looking at moving this because the time of COVID. I think we had plans to move this program online before, but now we're accelerating that. And I think this spring, there'll be options to take this program remotely. I too want to tell you a bit of a story about somebody who has took the program. His name is Barrett Risser. He's here on the screen. And he and his father began Risser's Construction Limited 15 years ago. And carpenters know that you have to build a solid foundation to be able to ensure your work and your good business name hold steady through the many challenges of economic periods, which we're kind of experiencing now. And that's why Barrett decided that he would lay a good footing in business skills by taking his Atlantic Trades business seal. He did that through a partnership between the Nova Scotia Apprenticeship Agency and the community college. The ATBS allowed Barrett to gain and improve business skills, and he is quoted to say that we are still learning and developing our business, and the ATBS was so important in providing us with the framework and the confidence to continue to elevate our business. Barrett goes on to say that he contributes a 48% growth in his business directly to taking this program. We recognize this as an endorsement on your certificate of qualifications. Then we wanted to show you another short video. This is Shirley Mitchell. Shirley Mitchell is the Human Resource Manager for Coast Tire, and there are 19 locations across the region. And we're just going to listen to a little bit about what Shirley has to say.
Out of 19 locations, I have 32 apprentices right now in the system, and one of the things I pride myself on is getting them to journey person status, and completion rate is important, and also to assist them, to accommodate them, to help them, whatever those challenges might be that might be stopping them from getting there. How do we make this work? Pride that is just overwhelming in some sense, because to see someone accomplish something and to get to that end goal, what better definition of success can there be? Immigrants, young women into the industry. It's diversity. It makes you a much better employer. How do you brand yourself well? By being a good employer, by making sure you take those apprentices, help them get all the way through to full journey person status. Make sure they go to school. You can have a good living, and you can do something with your hands. Lots of opportunities out there. We have an aging workforce, so why is it a benefit to the employer to get involved in apprenticeship? If they don't, they're not going to have the skilled workforce to continue their businesses. The appreciation and the participation of our senior management team, our managers in each of those stores, because if they weren't embracing these projects, if they weren't embracing taking on these youth or newcomers or whatever, then there would be no success.
So we just want to reiterate that currently we have over 2,000 employers across the province who participate in apprenticeship, who hire apprentices, support their training, and move them through to certification. We recognize champion employers every year. On the screen now, you can see some of our past champions. And we also recognize milestone award winners, and those businesses, those employers are ones that have been very active in training and completing apprentices over the years. And just as a final slide, oops, there. We just want to thank you all and give you our contact information there at the bottom of the screen. And then I believe I'm sending it back to Kent for a question and answer session.
Yes, indeed, Donna. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. It's incredible. I learned a ton. I hope everyone that's watching also got as much out of it as I did. Just a fascinating, introduction for me. Maybe not for everyone on the call, but a really fascinating introduction to me to what's available for apprentices on the trade side. And I honestly, I found it fascinating. So thank you all to coming here today and presenting. a bunch of people have signed into the chat, so I encourage our presenters to look, and mostly it's complimentary words and introductions. So if there are some people there that you'd like to meet, please take down that information and we can certainly provide it afterwards as well. There are no specific questions yet on the chat, but I certainly have a whole bunch that some that I had before, but some that I've gained as we went through this. So I'll start off with a couple questions, and anyone that's online, please jump in if you have more. And these won't be directed at anyone specifically, but again, between you three, you can certainly jump in as you need. So when an employer is looking at going down this route for apprenticeship, you know, can you give an idea of how much work it is? I know that's a tough question, but generally, what is an employer looking at from a extra work for them, say in a small company, to get this program up and running in their organization?
I can take that one, Kent. Prior to my time in government, I did actually work in a small business who employed apprentices. So I have a little bit of firsthand experience on what it means. So employers who train their employees have higher retention, they have higher productivity. Marjorie already very clearly outlined the benefits. In terms of time, apprentices work according to what we call in the trade the logbook. Under a certified journey person. So the certified journey person and the employer and the apprentice do have to meet regularly to make sure their training plan is going according to plan. And in addition to that, the apprentice is required to let the apprentice go for training. And that could be 6 to 8 weeks. From a paperwork perspective, the apprentice is the one who completes all the agreements. So the employer really, from a time perspective, is about their meeting with their ITC regularly to monitor that apprentice's progress through the apprenticeship system. But I'm also pleased to say that we're actively working with our Atlantic partners on what we call the apprenticeship management system that will move all of that transactional stuff online self-serve. So employers and apprentices will have all of that information at their fingertips. And hoping to have that launched mid-2021.
Wow, that's great. Thanks, Kim. That's great. So it kind of jumps you to which this is not a real question, but kind of a comment that I had. Why? And you can answer this or not. Feel free. But why wouldn't an employer want to do this? I mean, when I look at the supports that you guys have available, the financial incentives to do it, you know, why it's so good for their business, and you obviously have a lot of businesses doing, but you know, is there a sense of why someone wouldn't want to do this for their business?
I can take that.
Like a no-brainer.
I think it is around awareness and helping employers really understand that it is pretty easy to come into the apprenticeship system and to support an apprentice. But I do believe, just stepping back a little bit, when you think of Nova Scotia and what our companies, where our companies are at in terms of supporting human resource development, I think we still have a ways to go in developing that foundational understanding across the board with employers about how important it is to invest in their employees and to help develop a training culture. At Labor and Advanced Education, as you know, we're the apprenticeship agency, but we work hand in hand with our Skills and Learning branch and our Workplace Initiatives programming. And we do have a lot to offer as a department to support employers to get engaged with training. What we're trying to do is get the word out through, such as this webinar, to really help them understand that those supports are available. Many of our programs go underutilized that are there to benefit employers because I don't think they understand that it really is that easy. So thanks to the Chamber for helping us get the word out, and hopefully we can sort of take this presentation on the road and hopefully get more chambers to participate across the province.
That's great. That's a great answer, Margie, and I totally agree with you. I think awareness is a big piece. I mean, we constantly hear, my former life at the Department of Business with government, of the workforce shortages, and there are tools there to help people build their workforce. And I hear coming out of COVID again, even at the Chamber, we're hearing people can't find people to work, can't find skilled people to work. So Yeah, I think awareness is great, and we're certainly happy to help. You guys outlined a lot of the financial incentives and supports that are available to folks that want to get involved in this. So once you get someone through the program, are there further incentives after that? Was one of the questions. So when someone wants to hire an apprentice that has finished their training, are there other incentives available after that?
Do you want me to take that, Marjorie? All right. So, of course, we look after the financial supports for the apprenticeship program. There's a couple of things that I would say from an apprenticeship skilled trades professional. One is learning is lifelong. So we support journey persons in training. We work with our partners, sector councils, industry associations to come up with what we call post-journey training. And we will support that. We've done some work with the Automotive Sector Council on that. And in fact, we're currently right now working with the Construction Sector Council to ensure that our journey persons have all the skills they need to build hospitals in Nova Scotia. The second is, I'll do a plug for you, Kent. There's also incentives on training, and I do believe the webinar's on Tuesday or Wednesday from our partners at the Skills and Learning branch. So there's also some training through workplace initiatives that does that sort of training as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, the amount of training that's available for free is incredible. Again, it's an awareness thing. I think if people knew what LAE had available, there'd be more people taking advantage of it. So to hear that there are programs that are not fully utilized is kind of shocking, but not surprising, I guess, but it's unfortunate. And I thought the other piece I really enjoyed was the Atlantic Trades Business Seal. I mean, that really just jumped out at me as a tremendous program for businesses that want to take their own business to the next level. I think that's a fabulous program. So congratulations to you all on that. Maybe someone can speak to a little bit. I know in the last number of years, like the apprenticeship programming has changed across the Atlantic provinces to be much more synergistic. What has changed in the programming and apprentices across Atlantic Canada?
Perhaps I can take that one. Quite a few years ago, probably about 6 years ago, we endeavored on an Atlantic harmonization in the trades. And we're in the middle of our third phase of that. So the first phase had like 8 different trades, and we've added more and more trades to that. So what we do is we come together. We have what we call Atlantic Trade Advisory Committees. So each province puts an employer and an employee and an instructor on a little team times the 4 different Atlantic provinces, and they come together, and it goes much beyond the national harmonization project, which tries to kind of make things similar across the whole country. The Atlantic Harmonization Project goes a step further, where we actually use one common curriculum document. So we actually have the same curriculum document that we use for all training of apprentices in all of the Atlantically harmonized curriculum. In addition to that, we develop, in conjunction with these Atlantic Trade Advisory Committees, we develop item banks, so a bank of questions that could be used on these level exams. So while the level training is all done in the same sequence, scope and sequence, and then they're assessed using the same bank of questions. So our exam may not look exactly like the Newfoundland exam or the New Brunswick exam, but they're all each exam is from the same bank of questions. So they're very similar and they overlap each other. And so that we can assure that the training that's happening in all of Atlantic Canada is very mobile. So somebody who's moving from Atlantic province to Atlantic province, they're not going to see any gaps in their training as they move around the Atlantic provinces.
Wow, that's tremendous. And I'm going to ask a bit of a technical question now, sort of on that same line. So Donna, this might be for you too, but when in one of the slides, it mentioned there are 71 trades and 13 of those trades are compulsory certified trades. So just for clarity for me and potentially for other people, so are those 13, are they the red seal trades? And if so, what are the other, what is the certification that like this of the other 71 or the other 60 some odd? What are their certifications look like?
I'll
So we
take
have,
that, Kent.
Sure.
So essentially, a red seal trade is a trade where a number of jurisdictions in Canada have agreed to have a common occupational standard for that occupation. So there are 50 trades across Canada which are in the Red Seal program. And the Red Seal program is administered by people like myself, my colleagues across the country. We work together to make sure that consistency is there at a standards level. And what Harmonization has done is sort of, I call it sort of the middle of the sandwich, because we had common standards and common certification exams. And Harmonization has enabled all the training in the middle to be consistent, and the trade names, the total number of hours that are required for training, the sequencing of that training. So that's broadly is defining the Red Seal trades. Now, each jurisdiction has the authority to designate their own skilled trades occupations. So in some jurisdictions, for example, Ontario, they would have a large number of trade, maybe 100 or so designated occupations, where we have 71. So it really is by jurisdiction. And within that jurisdiction, they will decide how to regulate those trades. So in Nova Scotia, we have what we call compulsory certified, which you mentioned. And that is the reason it's regulated is for the purpose of safety. So safety for the worker, safety for the workplace, sometimes safety for those who would engage, I guess, at large in society, and also protection of the environment. So there has to be a clear case demonstrated to government of why we need to regulate that trade. And so we have 13 trades that fall under that. So they are not always, whether they're Red Seal or not isn't really pertinent. It's a matter of what the provincial sort of government of the day has decided that trade needs to be regulated.
Right.
And when I mentioned the 8 other trades that are regulated through other statutes, that's in large part, that's under our occupational health and safety, or our trade, our technical safety division of labor and advanced education. So you're looking at crane operators, and we know a lot about cranes these days, particularly in HRM, or you're looking at sort of technical operators of equipment. And there's a need there, again, for safety for those to be regulated.
Right.
Does
Okay.
that clarify that?
Yeah, totally. So within that 71, if there's a trade that's not a compulsory certified trade, would they still have a similar path? So there would be time at work, obviously, and then time away doing coursework as well for almost all for all of those trades? Yeah,
it is a consistent approach of, as Kim described it, sort of alternating work on the job, learning under a supervising journey person, getting those skills, getting your hours, owning the skill, putting in the time, as our ad says, and then demonstrating competency at every level until you reach certification. So that is applied across every trade.
Wonderful. And do you guys help with the matching of employers and apprentices? Is that part of the role that the department plays, or the agency plays?
So Kent, as far as our mandate goes, not necessarily job matching. However, we have a number of programs that play that role. So Donna's slide on our diversity and inclusion partners, we have a number of programs that actually do job matching for diverse apprentices and employers. In addition to that, we have some what we call enhanced direct entry programs. So those programs would identify a very specific labor market need in a community in Nova Scotia, and they would partner with the employers in that community to put on short-term upfront training to allow them, those employers, to get employees or apprentices very quickly. And we've done a number of those in the motive power trades over the last few years who were experiencing some labor market shortages. And then lastly, we have industry training consultants across the province who meet with employers and apprentices every day. And they do provide leads, or if an employer says, I've been really looking for somebody, they will help them out, if not to match directly, but certainly to put them in a position where they have all the information that they need to find a skilled trades worker.
Great, thank you, Kim. I think there's two things I took away from that. Certainly, and you showed it in the slide, you guys have locations all across the province. So while we're all sitting in Halifax today, you're only a phone call or a short drive away from a center that can provide some kind of help when you're thinking about apprenticeship, which is wonderful. And the other piece that I didn't mention, which I was very impressed with too, was the diversity piece. What you guys have done on diversity through that program is truly remarkable. So that was going to be a question, but you answered it well before I even got to it. So congratulations. Couple last questions, I guess. Where do you guys see the largest gaps currently in the employment needs in the trades across the province? Are there a couple that really jump out as saying, we need more people in these fields?
I didn't know if Kim wanted to take that or not.
You can start.
Yeah, so we've mentioned the Cape Breton infrastructure, and and Kim sort of mentioned the skills gaps that are there with the current workforce, and so we're working to fill those skill gaps. But then there is a need for new entrants into the trades, and we've had a workforce analysis completed on many of the projects in Cape Breton, and we know that the current number of journey people or trades practitioners who work within the sector and in the region just won't meet the need that's there. So that's at a micro level in terms of those projects. And so we know construction, sheet metal worker, for example, roofer, those are some of the early skills that are trades that are emerging. But at different stages in a construction project, those needs will get larger. And we also see in the industrial sector a need for machinists. That's an area where we have a big sector of, I guess, machining in the HRM area, but we also have pockets of it outside of HRM. And that's an area where we are trying to grow awareness with the employers or with our youth about the opportunities to come into the industrial sector. And I was just going to mention that overall, we do labor market studies in partnership with Prism Economics, and they're out of Ontario, but they have provided at the Atlantic level, but also specifically for Nova Scotia, what a forecast is. And we do have, so by trade, we sort of know that forecast out to 2026, or maybe it's even further now. And what we do know is that we need to be bringing in about 2,000 new apprentices every year in order to certify the number of journey people needed to work over that time period and those needs. And currently we are bringing in about 1,400 or less apprentices a year. So there's a widespread need across all of the trades. Some of the needs are greater than others, but it really is sort of the fabric of the economy, when you've got trades workers enabling us to actually carry on business. So it's a really important piece that we need. That's why our awareness needs to grow across the province. But we really do need young people coming into all of these occupations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you look at the O2 program in high schools now, which is a tremendous step forward from what used to be there. Certainly when all of us, I'm not trying to age any of us, but when all of us were in high school, those were not opportunities that were really presented, that certainly not in my case, as an opportunity. And if they were, who knows? We all might be sitting in different seats than we are today. And I think that's tremendous. And it's that stigma and that awareness that just, they're combined. I guess when we grew up, the stigma of it, and now it's more about awareness. But how do you get more people into these wonderful jobs that are available to them? And I guess kind of, again, winding down some of the questions, but a thought that occurred to me. So if you're a young person in high school, you're probably exposed to some of the O2 programs and some of the opportunities that are available. What if you're 2 or 3 or 4 years out of school and you're not sure where your career is taking you? How do you become aware of this as an opportunity when you're in your early 20s and maybe wondering how do I get involved in a trade?
Well, we do have, through the department, we fund career, Nova Scotia Works, so career centers across the province. And we work with those career centers to make sure they have information about apprenticeship. Kim's team, her industrial training consultants and a manager of a program are meeting with them to make sure that they are promoting apprenticeship so that people who are coming into their offices who are in mid, changing careers and want to do something else, know about us. So that's the predominant way. But we encourage our employers that direct entry, if you have a need and there's someone who knocks on your door, really try to discover what their mechanical aptitude is, if that's pertinent, or, what their trades capacity is. Because anybody can make a good tradesperson. They don't have to have gone to school beforehand. It's just really a matter of the employer's willingness to help train them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great comment, Marjorie, and that's a great place to sum up. That was you in answering one question, you summed up the whole webinar. So thank you for that very much. So we are pretty much out of time. I thought we were going to have lots of time. Again, I encourage you folks, and we can get you these contacts afterwards. But a bunch of people did sign into the chat and tell you who they were and their interest in getting involved with you guys. So I encourage you to do that. But of course, most importantly, thank you, you all for attending that are watching today. And thank you especially to Marjorie, Donna, and Kim for leading us through that fabulous presentation and discussion. And thank you, LAE, for supporting our small business support series. All this week, there's a full week of content. So for those that are online now and might like to come back, as was referenced, on tomorrow we learn about hiring incentives, training incentives on Wednesday, workplace hazards on Thursday, and labor standards on Friday. So a full week of small business support series sponsored by our friends at LAE. So again, thank you to you three for coming this morning. Thank you to everyone online. I found it fascinating. I always find these things fascinating because you just learn so much about what people are doing, and I think it's a great way to as you guys said, to share what's happening and the opportunities that are available to people. So on that note, I'll sign off and wish everyone a great day and a great week.
Okay.
Folks.
Thank you
very much.